I probably should have showed you how to create a custom tab. So I'm using the, these are all the base default ones, and then there's got this one custom. So you'll have that tab on your freshly installed Maya. Well, I'll show you how to create a custom tool, because eventually you might want to have a few up here. So to make my one called My Tools, I've gone down to this little arrow over here in the top left corner. You hold down left click, it opens up this panel. While still holding down left click, you go to New Shelf, give it a name, hit enter, and it will just create up here on this this shelf tab. But I've already got it there, so I won't bother. Now I'm going to show you how to put tools on your palette inside of your tab. So first one will be extrude. So we go to My Tools. Now it's under Edit Mesh on that top line, so you got File, Edit, Modify. Go across to see Edit Mesh. Edit Mesh. Now I'm holding down the left mouse button. Now I'm going to hold down on the keyboard Alt, Control and Shift. Go down to Extrude and place it there. You can see I've already, actually I want to delete those ones and I'll show you how to do it. To delete, if you accidentally put something on here you don't want, your middle mouse click on it, drag it over to this little bin over in the right hand corner and get rid of it. Do the same to that one, get rid of that. Now, I'm just going to hold down Alt Control Shift now, left click on Edit Mesh, hover over the extrude function and let go, and there it is. Next one is Merge Vertexes, and if you want to know what these are called, just hover over it and there you go, Extrude, Merge Vertexes, freeze, just select an object, freeze transforms, center pivot, delete history, merge objects and cut faces. These are your fundamental tools that you use for modeling, especially at the beginning. You'll be using these tools quite a lot, so we'll do that. So what I have next, Merge Vertexes, go to My Tools tab. I'm holding down Alt, Control and Shift, Edit Merge, and down here you've got Merge, Merge to Center, blah blah blah, Merge Vertexes tool. There you go. What's the next one? Freeze Transforms. Go to My Tools tab. I think it's under Modify, Freeze Transforms. There you go. And the next one is Center Pivot, Modify. Maybe it's under Edit. Sorry, I've forgotten where it is. I just use these panels, and it's been a while since I've actually put tools on these panels. Center Pivot, there it is there. So it's under Modify, halfway down, Center Pivot. There you go. Next one is Delete History. Now I think that's maybe Create, no, Modify, or is Edit. Delete all type by history. Yeah, you've got a couple different, but it's just delete all type by history. So I'm still in my tools panel. Yeah. File, go to Edit, go third of the way down, delete all type by history. The next one is Merge objects together, combine. Okay, there we go. Combine, there it is, so it's under Mesh. So I'm going to get off there, hold down Alt, Control, Delete, under Mesh, Combine. Oh, I put it on the wrong tab, I'm just going to put that in the bin, My Tools, Alt, Control, Shift, Combine. Next we've got Cut Faces tool. Cut Faces tool, there it is there. So it's under Edit Mesh. My Tools, Edit Mesh, Cut Faces. That looks different, that's not the right tool. That's a useful tool as well, we'll leave that one there. Split Poly tool, there it is, Split Poly. You can move them in different orders, so I might actually move this one to the end. Maybe it's the other way around. Yeah. So I'm gonna put these three tools at the beginning. Probably delete histories first because you want to use that a lot. Freeze transforms. Center pivot. Extrude. Cut faces. Merge. Split poly tool and merge objects. That's all we're going to need for now. So lesson 1, Maya 3D modeling and animation. First off, we're going to talk about just the basic interface and how you can navigate around the scene and work on models. Okay, so while you're modeling, I'm going to turn off all the things in the UI, what you see on your screen that you don't really need at first to model. So I think from memory, I haven't done this for a while, but you go to display, UI elements, and you start turning off some of these things. So I'm going to turn off the time slider. So I'm going to go back to display, UI elements. I'm going to turn off the range slider. I'm going to leave this down here, the Mel window, because you can type in commands, but we won't worry about that yet, but it's good to have these two little windows open. This grey little box here will give you error messages. If something's not happening how you think it should be, it can give you some hints on why it's not having the desired effect. So in this other one, you can type in little Mel script commands to make things happen. But that's down the track. I just wanted to let you know what that is. First thing is down in this little left corner where I'm hovering the mouse, you've got an X, Y, and Z coordinate. And it basically tells you, it helps you know which axis is what. So as I scroll around, you can see that along this axis here is X, and this axis here, going towards and away, is Z, and then up and down is Y. And that'll help you a lot as you navigate around the screen and you work on models. Okay, so the first thing, okay, you've got the center of this grid. Now that's called zero space, or the point of origin. Now right where I'm hovering my mouse cursor, that's 0, 0, 0 space, and in the context of world space. So along this axis is X, and there is 0x, 0y, and 0z. And usually that's how things work in Maya and most 3D programs. It's the first set of number values is X, the next set of values is Y, and the next set of values is Z, just in alphabetical order. Okay, so what I'm doing right now to move around the scene, and I'm focusing on that point of origin right now, so you can see it's always in the center of the screen as I rotate the screen around. And while I'm actually rotating the world, you're actually looking through the viewport as a virtual camera, and you're moving the camera around that space, which its pivot point is in the center. Now what I'm doing is I'm holding down the Alt key and the left mouse button, and then I just drag around the scene to rotate it. Now if I hold down Alt and the middle button, I pan left and right and up and down. And then the right mouse button scales in and out, so you're actually moving your camera towards and away from the objects in the scene. Now, if you happen to move yourself all the way over here and you're like, oh, how do I get back? You just press the F key and it will take you back to the center. Now, I'll create a few little objects. And this is how you start a model usually. So you go to the Create, on the top menu bar, you've got File, Edit, Modify, and then Create. We're going to go to Create. And the second option down is Polygon Primitives. And then it's these objects in here, which are simple geometric objects such as a sphere, a cube, a cylinder, a cone, a plane, a torus, and whatnot. We're going to start off with a cube. Now, to create the cube, I'm hitting W to get out of that tool.
So now I'm back to just moving around the scene. Now I'm going to go up to Create, Polygon Primitives, Create Cube. Now, in this flat axis, which is the XY axis, we're going to click and then drag to create the base of the cube, and then we move the mouse button up while holding the left mouse button to create the cube. And now we've got a three-dimensional object. And we're currently in wireframe mode, which is number 4. If you hit 4, you'll go to wireframe mode. So I'm going to hit 4 now. I'm already in wireframe mode, but it's putting me in wireframe mode. Now, if you want to have a shader texture on the faces of this object, so it looks like a more of a three-dimensional object, you press 6. Now, if I click off this object, you can see that the edges are not defined by anything other than light source. So there's a light source here coming from the XZ axis down. So you've got more shadowing on this side and a little bit of shadowing on the top. That just helps you see it. But if you want to have a little bit more of an idea of what's going on, and I recommend this, you go up to this little panel on the top of the screen with all these little picture icons, and you go to, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, the 15th one along. You see it's like a little box with a black edge defining the object. You click on that, and now you've got wireframe overlaid over the shaded object. And that's usually how I personally model. It just makes things easy. So you can see where your edge loops are, and you can keep everything uniform and clean. And the number one principle in 3D modeling is you want to have four-sided, every face should be made up of four-sided objects. And the reason for that is, for example, if I was to go up to my panel up here, which is on the Polygon panel, actually my custom panel, we'll go over that later. You can make your own panels, and you can put your own set of tools along there, like a palette. I'm going to go up to this little, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across. And if you just hover over it, it'll tell you what it's called. Select a point on the edge to start cutting the face. So I'm going to do that. So I select a point along the edge, and I left click to, I left click just to select the object. Now I click on that edge. It's making a liar out of me, sorry. Right, okay. Selected the object, hit cut tool, and now while it says that, click and drag on the first edge. So you can click on it and drag the edge, the little dot along, which tells you where it's going to make the first cut. I make a cut here, and a cut here, and then I'm holding down the Alt key and left dragging while I'm still in that tool, and then I'll drag along this edge, and then I'm going to complete that line and cut along here until I reach that edge. Now it's not snapping in, you can see. So if I go like that, you can see that those 2 points do not align. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold, while not touching anything on the keyboard, we're going to hit W to get out of the tool, or hit Enter to execute that tool, Enter. See, it's snapped to that edge. Because it knows that you want it close, and it's gone, okay, they're the 2 closest vertex points, and it's going to snap them together and close that loop. So now that's a continuous line going around those edges. Now, these 3 triangles are fine. They're going to be defined well. Like the software package understands how to define that. Now I'm going to go into vertex mode. So without touching anything on the keyboard, I'm going to right click, and it opens up this menu panel. This is a very important menu panel. You're going to use this a lot. And now you've got edge. There's a lot of things here, but all you really use at the moment is edge, vertex, face, and object. We're currently in object mode, but now I'm going to switch to vertex mode. Now, you can see these yellow points that define where all the edges meet. These are vertex points. And basically, the way the software package works is it defines these points with an XYZ coordinate based on this point of origin. So you can imagine we're like probably moving 2.5 units, two and not quite a half units in negative X. We're moving up in positive Z. I can put the vertical panel on, but you don't really need it for now. But you can imagine that's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 units up, and it's in Y, and probably 2.5 units in positive Z to grab this little vertex point here. Now, you can see how it's got a yellow line. It's yellow and it tapers off to nothing. That's because I'm in brush tool option when it comes to moving things. This little dongle here with the 3 arrows indicates that you're in translation mode, which means you're translating a point through 3-dimensional space based on the point of origin of the world space. So now I'm going to move that by just marquee dragging over it. I'll deselect it. You can actually click on the point, but sometimes it's easier just to marquee select it like that. Now if I move that, because those yellow lines are not highlighting any other vertex point, they're not going to, or they are slightly affecting this one. So as I move this, the one that's in the corner of this cube is slightly moving. So I'm going to hit Z, which is like undo to go back, and I hit B, and now it's not in a brush form, it's just in a moving that exact point. So now I move it, nothing else moves but that point. Yeah, this all seems fine. But if I move this, excuse me, if I move this up like this, you can see that this polygon here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided shape is not being defined well. There's something weird going on because ultimately the software turns everything into triangles, because triangles in mathematics is the smallest 3-dimensional object is a triangle. 2 points in space is just a line. As soon as you add a third point, you've now got a triangle, which is like a 3-dimensional, it's a 2-dimensional object that sits inside of a 3D space. Now, you can see how it's trying to figure out where that edge would be, and it's put it along this axis here between this point and this point that I'll highlight right now so it makes more sense to you. So these 2 points here, there's like, it thinks it should be an edge there, but you might not want that edge there. You might want the edge between these points. But it's not there, it's because it just picks a point. And it's picking another point along this point and this point. This point and this point. Now to select two points separately, you marquee select over one, hold down shift, and then you select the other one. You can keep selecting points as long as you hold down the shift key. But if you don't, if you just say you've picked ones you don't want while still holding shift key, you can deselect a selected point by marquee selecting over it, like that. So I'm deselecting all these points, just these 2 points. You can see that there's an edge bit that's being defined there, but there's no edge loop that you've clicked along there. So just imagine I wanted this edge to work along this axis, along this point here, shift select this point. Now if I was to go back to that same tool, that cutting tool, which is up on my custom panel, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across, and it says select a point on an edge to start cutting the tool. Now I click on that, it puts my object immediately back into object space. Now it's asking me to click and drag along an edge, which I'll drag along that edge until I reach that point, let go. Now I'm going to drag along this edge, and click there, hit the enter key, and then now you can see I've redefined that into triangles. But there's something wrong here, see? Well, see, you've got a quad there, 1, 2, 3, 4-sided face, which we call a quad, and then a tri, which is 1, 2, 3 edges to define a surface. See, I need to further define this one because this point, and you can see this corner point and this point that's highest needs to have something defined between there or along. I'll go back into vertex mode, so I'm letting go of the keyboard, going into vertex mode, select. If I want to define an edge along there, let's do that. So I'm going up to that tool, the cutting tool. I'm going to drag along the edge until I reach that axis point. And now I'm holding down Alt and I'm middle mouse scrolling to pan the camera so I can see this edge. Now I'm going to drag along that edge and I'm going to make a cut there, hit enter, and now it's a properly defined shape. Now I could probably get rid of this edge. Now to delete an edge, you just go into object space. Well, you're in object space, and then you hold down the right mouse button to open up this menu panel, and I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to select that edge. As I hover over it, you can see it highlights to tell you that you're able to select it. Now I can just hit the delete key, bang, delete it. So now that's a quad, and that's a triangle, and a triangle. But see, you've got the same issues on all of these sides now because you didn't, when I cut these original marks, I didn't cut them along a vertex point, I cut them along an edge, and I've created a triangle and a 5-sided face. And because that's not good because of those, the way that way that the software package convexes and concaves edges, and then you don't have full control, and you can come into a lot of issues later. So I'm just going to cut until I've made up triangle, because triangles and quads are the only shapes that you want if you don't want to have problems down the track. Because if you have too many 5-sided, 6-sided, 7-sided, multiple-sided faces, the software becomes unstable and it's more likely to crash on you, and you're going to lose a lot of work that you've worked on. So okay, I'm going to define this as a quad and a triangle by holding that same tool, drag along an edge, hit enter. Now, if you don't want to keep going up there to that panel and selecting the tool that you've already used, you can hit the G key. And what G key means is it'll activate the tool that you last used. So I'm going to hit G, and I'm going to go into that tool and cut along here. So now I have triangles, and they're all perfectly. So now if I go into face mode, so I'm going to right click without touching the keyboard, go into face mode, select that face, and move it, everything's still properly defined. The shapes are always triangles or squares. But it's better to, although triangles are valid shapes, it's better to keep everything as a quad if you can. But sometimes you can't. You need to define a surface, and the best way to do it is a series of triangles. So I'm going to hit G again. I'm going to cut along here, enter. Now we have 2 triangles. When you see 2 triangles on the same axis plane, you can delete the middle edge. So I'm going to not touch the keyboard, just right mouse click into edge mode, select that edge, hit the delete key. Now we've got a quad and a quad. This is fine. See, this is a well-defined 3-dimensional object now. I know it just looks weird, but it's well-defined. So that's the first lesson. Right.